Hungary, a term of the Europe Association and NATO, is no monarchy, but following 8 years of Orban's guideline, its policy framework has started to remind Russia's. The area for civilian community and a function freelance print in Hungary is declining quickly. A logon in 2011 redrew the channel on the election card, in which opposition parties and the print embattled as flagrant gerrymandering. Orban, 54, has done no open secret of his delight for Russia's policy framework. He has majestically outlined his sight for Hungary as an illiberal democratic state, a sentence how brings Russia's independent democratic state to reason, both of euphemistic regulation for an imperious styling of management. Orban served at first as main secretary of 1998 to 2002, but it was following he was once again selected in 2010 how he and Putin began meet every year. Sarcastically, Orban started up his policy career in 1989 in a difficult-hitting speaking needing how Soviet's forces keep the nation following more than rather than 40 years of invasion. To too many decades, Orban was perhaps the staunchest against Russian political figure in the entire of East Europe, told Andras Raj, a Ruski specialist and elder study comrade at the Center for Strategy and Defense teaching in Budapest. How all modified while he was selected for the other period in 2010, while his social rhetorical on Russia began to get on a favorable color. Hungary represents a instance wherever by the government has switched area for Kremlin intervention to beach up its own policy force, that is substantially relying on against migrant and against European seamless integration policies, the paper says. Kovacs sacked the concept how Russia wielded impact on Orban or his by the government as silly. Down there's not one item of our policies how can propose to you how we're nearer to Russia or Mr. Putin in any way rather than any West Europe nation, he told. Russia's plan but several of Hungary's new policies see love there direct out of Russia's plan. Hungary gonna law recent year how imposes restrictions on non-government organizations' reception overseas financing. The law looks nearly identical to Russia's Overseas Broker Act, that has been utilized to fracture downward on opposition-sounding and freelance print. The Magyar law requires NGOs reception more than rather than €24,000 of overseas entities to registry in by the government and reveal their source. Orban has reasoned it is required for clarity and to mark out cash money laundering, but Magyar NGOs see it as an try particularly to goal organizations underfunded by multimillionaire philanthropic George Soros. Soros's outdoor community foundations has been prohibited of Russia, that sees the organization as a safety risk. The Magyar by the government has with recent year vilified Soros in innumerable billboards through the nation. One pictures him in opposition side leaders, and else says, allows not enable Soros to include the recent laughter. Peter Zigertu, the nation's overseas sphere secretary, protected the campaigning, marking Soros a domestic safety hazard, in a declaration. He charged the financier of needing to tear down a boundary safety fencing and settle down hundreds of thousands of illicit migrants in Europe and Hungary. Soros's representative told his view include been misrepresented. In reality, it was thanks to a Soros-funded learning how Orban was capable to research at the College of Oxford. The against Soros campaigning sits awkwardly shut to a revival of against Semitism in the nation, that has introduced Magyar policy in parliament discussion. Orban's monitoring of the print reporter Anita Komuevs, 35, says she is aimed by the government on two fronts, at first since she's a interviewer and other as who plant for an NGO reception financing of Soros. Komuevs treated for Hungary's greatest opposition printing paper, Nepszabad Szag, for 11 years up it was closed downward abruptly in 2016. She found out on the closing of a news story alarm on her telephone. The government denies closing it downward, but Komuev says how it was apparently a policy judgment. It was since we unsecured to lot stories on corrupt practices. The business how belonging the paper, Media Works, was sold out fair weeks after to Lorink Mazaros, a shut Orban friend. The path they took above TV channels, several wireless channels, the largest news story gateway, a few week periodicals and the whole provincial print external Budapest, Komov's told. Komov's mind on outgoing her occupation, but she found a job in Atlazzo, an NGO of journalists, hacker attack and lawyers, one of the few left freelance print organizations leftward in the nation. Country print has as well advanced by Orban and his work as a promotion car, Komov's told. It has selected up a considerable quantity of news stories by Russia's satellite and Russia present, both of wide deliberate mouthpieces of the Ruski by the government. Orban has as well utilized the law to clip downward on the print, spearheading law how set a new parliament-appointed print monitoring flesh how penalized print point of sale for imbalanced news story scope, or substance how the flesh considers humiliating to the most. The finance meltdown of 2008 leftward lot print organizations outdoor to takeovers. About 90% of Hungary's print is now each immediately or implicitly controllable by Orban's Fidesz side, on to Marius Dragomir, CEO at the Center for Print, Information and Community at the Centre Europe College's High School of Social Politics. The wide-monitored TV2 was purchased by a Magyar-American ex-Hollywood manufacturer, Andy Vajna, who had traded in Orban's by the government. He won the purchase in a legislative fight versus Leho Simicska, a print magnate and boyfriend-turned-foe of Orban. Swaths of regional print were as well purchased up by Mazaros, an Orban friend who rose of work as a gas mechanic to be a rich entrepreneur and the mayoress of the city wherever Orban was unborn, Felksit. Orban's soccer possession. It was one of Mazaros's companies how constructed a big soccer arena law through of Orban's infancy household in Felksit. It seats 3,500 human beings in the city of Fair 1,600, and has been ridiculed in freelance print as a bustle draft for the football-obsessed lead. In addition, the arena, down there is slight departure on in Felksit. On a dust extend of way down there are two little grocery store, a shabby coffee store and a tobacco shop. The arena represents lot of which Hungarians are proper disappointed in. Corrupt practices concoction include started to distribution via Orban's by the government and questions are routinely grown on the way profitable by the government contracts are decorated. Janison Abraham, a 59-year-old female who planned at the Greater of Felksit's 2 grocery store, is vocally crucial of Orban. Wherever is all the cash. He fair steals it all and doesn't expend it on whatever helpful, love health, she told. How soccer arena is a waste management. It expenses so lot to lighting up and pure, and it hasn't driven in cash for the city. Abraham isn't lucky on Orban's relation in Putin each. She points to a nuke force factory draft how Hungary decorated to Russia's country-owned Rosatom, saying how she was concerned her nation would be too dependent on Russia for power. Kovacs protected by the government's trial, proverb how just Russia had the expertise and the technique to conduct it of. He rejected down there was whatever non-transparent on it. But though for such fed up in Orban, down there are few probable alternatives. The opposition is fragmented and no some side appears to include a actual opportunity of winner. A female in her family game on the road in Felksit told she would voice for Orban's side since the city is all Fidesz. He's superior to remain quiet and not get in discord. She is frustrated in concoction of by the government corrupt practices, but she points out Orban's by the government wouldn't be Hungary's at first to improper use cash. They're all the identical.